to the role of the work-based learning coordinator for your school district. So we're going to start at looking at probably one of the most current job opportunities or job descriptions I've seen that schools have been posting when they're looking for a work-based learning coordinator. So the question is, are you the right candidate for this position? Work-based learning coordinator certification, either the 8981 or the 8982. We are looking for an outgoing, creative, detail-oriented, able to multitask, good with technology, individual who can organize and supervise quality work-based learning programs and other career events. This individual should possess the following skills and knowledge to coordinate the New York State registered work-based learning programs, procedures, forms, and assessments, teach employability skills, create an advisory board, plan career-related events such as a career fair, employment day, guest speakers, field trips, network with local businesses for purposes of student placement and curriculum development, career counsel students in making choices of current and future career opportunities, and share career and corporate intelligence with the staff. If you can, then you are the 21st century work-based learning coordinator we are looking for. I know many of my students know that usually when we talk about all the duties of the work-based learning coordinator, I like to use the image of Superman and Superwoman, because yes, that's quite a bit that today's age, this individual may be called on to perform all those tasks. Certainly, I want you to get nervous and think you have to do all of those tasks in 1 year. You start small, and then you add on each year, adding on another task for you to handle. So today's objective for our webinar is to create an awareness of the role of the work-based learning coordinator in the 21st century, compare and contrast how the work-based learning position has strengthened in its nature and responsibilities in the 21st century school, present new opportunities for enriching your current knowledge and skills for this dynamic position, which challenges the individual to be outstanding in both of the school walls and outside in the business community. Now, we will stop twice during the presentation so that you can ask some questions rather than waiting to the end. So I have broken up this presentation into thirds, and this is the beginning of the first third. All work-based learning programs that will be in New York State have common elements. They all should follow the regulations that are laid out in the New York State Work-Based Learning Manual. The manual has been created by the New York State Education Department, and it's a wonderful resource that will give you good guidelines on how to operate and supervise a work-based learning program. Another common element is, which is very important as well as the first, is that all programs should follow both the New York State and the U.S. Department of Labor regulations for the employment of minors. A minor is a child who's under the age of 18. Probably the number one responsibility of today's work-based learning coordinator is for the safety of that child. We are usually sending young people out to an area where there are no other educators there. They are working independently, and we have to make sure that the environment is safe, the people that they're working with is safe, what they're doing is safe for them. And the third common element is that work-based learning coordinators should possess the either 8981, that certification for career awareness, or the 8982 for career development for the coordination of work-based learning programs. Now, there is the new program out for the CDOS Commencement Credential. It is not mandated that you possess this certification, either of the two that we're looking at present, but it has been strongly or highly recommended by the State Education Department that the individual who is going to operate that program should go for the certification, because the knowledge and the tools that you will need to have a quality program is what you would get from the two courses. Well, once we have the commonalities behind us, then everything differs. It's amazing sometimes, I think, about how many different variations we have of work-based learning in New York State. First, it will differ by student population. Who is going to be served? Is it going to be the comprehensive academic students, the career and technical education students, the special needs students, or students in the at-risk programs? So that will change the nature of your program and what you do. The types of services delivered to the students, such as how much related instruction for employability skills, how much related instruction for career and technical education skills, and then the length of the placements. Are they long in nature or are they short in nature? They all differ by different programs. The types of services delivered to the entire school population, such as career days, job fairs, field trips, guest speakers, all are extra added-ins that now the work-based learning coordinator seems to have some type of connection to. But probably that individual will work as a part of a team with other educators to have those events. And then today it's very common and certainly encouraged that all school districts create a business advisory board. And the best person to do that would be the individual who is out connecting to the world, the business and the people, so it usually falls back on the work-based learning coordinator's role. Today we're using social media and technology to communicate to both the students and the employers, and there's always career counseling activities. We need to make sure that the students we are placing are sure that they know who they are and this is the type of experience they would like to try. So the more they know about themselves and the more they know about careers, the better job placement you will have. I remember long ago when I first started as a work-based learning coordinator at Smithtown High School, I actually volunteered to do the job. I can tell you it's 1966, and I'm so glad because I truly loved it, and that was probably the right position I should have been in through all my career, which I was. My background is a business education teacher, and I also have a career counseling high school guidance license. I remember when I started out, it was basically I was working with the full-time work-bound students. That was the group that I was focused on. But so much has changed since back in the 1960s, and that today what's really amazing and wonderful is now work-based learning is for all students. The best and the brightest, the hardworking students, the gifted and talented, the special needs students. It's for everybody. It's a wonderful experience. So thinking about that and looking at the New York State programs, I thought we should take just a minute or two to review what are these state registered programs. Because many times I find my students become confused with exactly, well, which program should I be thinking of using? So let's take a look at the chart that's in the New York State manual. These on the left-hand side are the 4 state registered programs. CEIP is Career Exploration Internship Program. GWEP is General Education Work Experience Program. WESEP is Work Experience Career Exploration Program. And COOP, which is Cooperative Work Experience. If we look at the second column, the difference of the certification that you would need to coordinate a program is shown in this column. Career Exploration Internship Program, you would need the 8982. The 8982 is usually for a teacher who is a career and technical education teacher and has that particular teaching license. Where in the GWEP program, you could have the 8981. Now this would be an educator who has a teaching license for grades 7 through 12. They can be a high school guidance counselor. They could be a special education teacher who also has the 7 through 12. You'll notice that the 3982 is repeated in all boxes, so that if you are a career and technical education teacher, you can coordinate all 4 of these programs that are offered by the state. Here is the WESEP program for both certifications, and then the COOP program for the 8982 CTE program. When I started, COOP was a new program, and it was actually a new program where it was coming off of the apprenticeship training in the 1950s. Apprenticeship training, we always thought about the trades and so forth. Well, we wanted work experience for the students going into retail and office and food and so forth, and so co-op was created at that time. The difference in the programs also are divided up by their age. You could see CEIP is 14 and older, GWEP is 16 and older, WESEP is for only 14 and 15, and co-op is for 16 and older. And then the programs differ by, well, are they paid or not paid? So we have CEIP is unpaid, GWEP and WESEP are both paid programs, and co-op now is both paid and unpaid. And that is a recent change. I believe about either 2 or 3 years ago, the State Ed Department decided to include a section of unpaid co-op in that area. The next variation would be the amount of credits you would get for your work experience. Now, I should probably start off with saying that if a student is in a CTE high school, a CTE program, and they have 2 or 3 periods of a particular CTE course sequence, the work-based learning is part of that program. The credit is included in the credit they're getting totally for that program. It's not really additional credit. The additional credit usually is given in the LEA's home academic high schools. So if somebody is running a CEIP program, they can give the half for 54 hours and so forth. They can give the GWEP credit, the WESEP credit, and then the breakdown for the co-op. But just know that if the work-based learning is part of a major sequence of 2 or 3 courses, then that credit is included. It's not separate. There is related classroom instruction, and there are 2 types of related classroom instruction. One type is the employability skills. Who am I? How do you get a job? How do you fill out a job application? How do you write a resume? How to handle an angry boss, so forth. Right? Those types of topics need to be taught by either the work-based learning coordinator or a CTE teacher if the student is in a program. So here you could see the breakdown of the related classroom instruction. Many times there'll be programs around the state that there's no related instruction. There's no connecting class. Well, this is an integral part of work-based learning, a state-approved program, because besides the work experience, we want them to make sure that they know about succeeding in the world of work and where they are going. Finally, we have 2 last columns. Experience must relate to the career. Well, yes, if they're in CEIP, the state wants them to choose a spot that relates to their career goal. So, of course, you need to know their career goal. GWEP and WESEP, no, the experience does not have to relate to their career goal, but it could. It certainly would be an advantage. And then co-op, yes. And finally, the training must develop career skills. All right, in CEIP, it's a career exploration program, so we're not looking at developing career skills. It's career skills for GWEP and WESEP, and also co-op. So many times, you know, we'll look at this and people say, well, where do I fit? You have to look at your population, you have to look at your certification, you have to look at how much related instruction you're going to give, and then what is your focus? Are you going to give them skills? Are you helping them move on to the career path that they want to go on? So here's just a slide on the 2 certifications. And I probably should mention now the difference between career awareness and career development. Right? There's not really any set definition of career awareness and career development, but I like to define it as career awareness are usually activities where students are watching, observing, and performing some hands-on, but nothing that is repetitive and productive and making money for the employer. Whereas the career development is a program in which the student would be doing productive, repetitive work, hands-on. So usually in the 89-82, the students coming from a CTE program, and that they have been practicing their skills, and we want them to use their skills at the workplace, where the 8981 is really career exploration. So this a statement here about all of our students must be covered under employers' workers' compensation insurance. We probably can discuss this at the end of the webinar. This is true whether they are paid or non-paid. So keep that in mind. So moving on. Which work-based learning program is the right program for you? Well, just quickly, as a real summary, your school needs to take into consideration age, related instruction, non-paid experience or paid, amount of credit. I think I've mentioned all of these. And most important is that whatever program you choose, these are the essential documents for all programs. You need a parent's permission form. You need a memorandum of agreement with the employer. You need a training plan. You need a student evaluation. You need a record of training hours. And you need a career plan. All of these items are covered in the 2 work-based learning courses when you get your certification. The state also has a chart for programs that are not registered with them, but that certainly you could use these. And these programs, too, you do not have to have the certification. The one on top we'll just look at very quickly is the one for the new CDOS Credential. This would be your community-based work experience program for students with disabilities. It's the supervising agency is the New York State Education Department. Don't need the extension. The students can be 14 or older, unpaid or paid. You can give them credit. Related work-based learning classroom instruction is optional, but boy, I would say it's needed. And the other 2s are no's at that part. There's job shadowing, community service, service learning, senior projects, school-based enterprise, all different activities, considered work-based learning activities that schools can become involved in. I did want to mention at this point that I do see a trend that has started, and that I think we should talk about it because we are talking about the work-based 21st century work-based learning coordinator. What I find now is that many schools who have had programs already in existence have registered their programs of whatever it is going to be, the co-op, CEIP, or whatever, but what they're doing is they are changing from a structured focus to a career focus. And by that I mean is that it seems like in our schools we certainly have a lot going on with STEM, and you may find in your school that the science department and the math department are doing something with all the STEM activities, and they want their students to have some type of work-based learning. So as the new work-based learning coordinator, you want to step up and say, well, I could help you. Are you looking for guest speakers? Do you want field trips? Do you want me to connect your students to STEM particular activities? Another big area is the new P-TECH, Pathways to Technology. There are 16 of these schools around the state. Each of these programs are 6 years in length, from 9th grade through 2 years of junior college, and they all have a career focus: manufacturing, healthcare, culinary. So once again, if a P-TECH program starts to pop up in your school, you want to say that, hey, I could be the person to do work-based learning for this program. We have academies that are there. We have Project Lead the Way, work-based learning for engineers. Many times I have mentioned to my students that in my program at Smithtown, I would register many of the state programs, put all the students into one class, and call my class Career Jumpstart. I encourage teachers to maybe consider naming their program something that would attract students rather than calling it CEIP or GWEP, which doesn't really mean much to students and parents, something that has a little punch to it, like you're going to start your career, you're going to get an advantage for your career, may attract a lot of students. So this would be a program in which you have students that have many different schedules that you could have in the same related instruction class, but that you would be making sure, do they get paid, unpaid, how many hours, and so forth. And then, of course, we have a lot of school simulations open in our schools, the automotive shops, the hospitality shops. Things are opening up where the public comes in, and that's another area where you could be involved. So I think we're ready for our first break. Gretchen, are you there?
I am. You have a handful of questions.
All right. So
first
go ahead.
one is, with the overall success of CTE programs, including work-based learning, why does New York State continuously stall in making CTE mandatory?
Well, I have first, number one, say I am not a employee of the New York State Education Department, all right, and certainly I would be a big supporter of making career and technical education mandatory for all students. So I think the answer to this is that we have some wonderful professional organizations in New York State. We have professional organizations for work experience, which is WECA, for agriculture, for healthcare, so forth, and we are all under an umbrella called NYSACI, which is represents all of us, and they are working very diligently with the State Ed Department in getting more recognition for CTE. So how can we answer, what can we do for this question is join your professional organization, get involved. We need a voice to talk to the Board of Regents, and those are the people that really make the decision. So join a professional association. Things can be done. Got another question?
Yeah. Can you get CDOS certification on top of the career development or career awareness?
Let's see, how do I answer that? There's no CDOS certification. The certification is for any of the 4 registered programs that I went over. The state recommends if you're going to do the CDOS Commencement Program, that's not a registered work-based learning program, but it's a program that special ed wants you to have, taking the certification is going to help you do the CDOS program. So it's one certification, well, 2 types of certification that cover 4 registered programs and CDOS. Sort of work backwards on that. I don't know if I gave the right answer. If I don't and someone wants to write the question again, please do that. Okay, another one?
Next question is, if a student with a disability is in an unpaid community-based work experience and meets the non-employment definition based on the FLSA 64C08, is it true that they do not need workers' comp?
The best person to answer that would be Cheryl Winstell at the New York State Department of Education, but I'll give you my answer to that. That if that student is going out with a job coach, then it's an extension to the classroom, and the student is being protected by the job coach as that person is there watching what the student is doing. And so the liability of the workers' comp would be associated with the school. Right? If the student is going out independently, like we place our students in the 4 registered programs, those students need to be covered by workers' compensation. So I think it has to do with the guidance and the coverage of protecting the safety of the child.
Okay, next question is, CDOS credentialed students can also participate in the registered programs, correct?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yes, and we encourage that. Right, and that as a work-based learning coordinator, you want to set up your program so all students can be part. You can set up several independent programs, but yes, the example I gave before of Career Jumpstart, there's no reason why you can't have students that are working towards their high school diploma, which all of our students should be doing, and participating in Career Jumpstart, which would encompass, it could be co-op, it could be CEIP or whatever, so yes.
Okay. You have a request if you could briefly talk about school-based enterprises.
Well, school-based enterprises would be businesses that are run by the students in the school, so school store. I don't believe the virtual enterprise program, the wonderful VE program, is part of that, but anything in which has been started by the students, whether they're manufacturing a product and selling it to the public, whether they're working in a school store and selling things to the public, that's the key for school-based enterprise.
Okay. Next question is, I'm an academic support teacher in CTE with additional experience as a New Visions internship coordinator. Which certification would be best for me to obtain?
It sounds like this individual is not a career and technical education teacher, so this individual would then want to pursue the 8981 Career Awareness Certification. That individual takes the same 2 courses as everybody else and applies for the 8981 certification. I think we should go on, and maybe we'll get more questions, or we'll get to answer the others if we can. Should we go on, Gretchen?
Yep.
Okay. I'm watching the time, so we need to move forward. So what's the end goal of all this? All right? The end goal of work-based learning, in my mind, is preparing all our students that we are working with to be college and career ready. Right? The students that we're working with can be the CDOS, can be those going on to 2-year college and technical school who are going to continue part-time, or they could be 4-year college-bound students. The steps in helping these students become college and career ready, meaning they can do the academic work for college and they have control over their career, usually can be found in these 4 circles. First thing I would recommend to anyone just starting a new program or someone who already has a program and hasn't done this, number 1, advisory board. You need to be able to sit around a table with a group of employers and discuss their needs and your needs. You start off small. You could start with 5, 10, 15 employers, and then each year you keep adding more and more employers to your organization. My students know that I have a little rule of thumb is that usually if you have, let's say, 20 employers on your list, usually half of them will show up for the meeting, 10. All right, so if you want to have 20 employees sitting in the room, you need to invite the double amount of 40. Now, why I say that is not anything against the employers. It's just that they're running a business, and many times they will not be able to leave their place of business to come to a meeting. So always try to have more people on your board and keep inviting them to your meetings. Number 2, I'm a strong advocate of career counseling with your work-based learning students. Just because they come to you and say, hey, Mrs. Gubing, I want to be an automotive technician, you need to know, well, how have you made that decision? Is it because you have had an automotive class? Do you like working around cars? Or is it because you just think it's kind of cool to drive cars? So there should be in your related instruction, and before you place a student, this a whole module that we do in the online course of discovering your career DNA, which is the John Holland Code. So it's not something that I have created, I've just packaged it. And if a student knows their career DNA or their 3 highest interest areas, they can match it to all sorts of job titles that would be a good fit for them. Number 3, you need to deliver somehow specific job skills and positive work habits development. Usually our students are taking a related career and technical education course. If you're in a school, and I know many of my CDOS people are in schools that have no CTE in it at all, well, then you need to sit down and talk about what are the basic skills we want our students to have and create a course of basic skills, whether it be handling money, stocking shelves, answering the telephone. Somehow, if you don't have CTE courses, you could be teaching your own skill courses. I just want you to keep in mind, though, that if whatever skill courses you're teaching, they are not CTE courses per se. So some of you probably know you have 2 options with CDOS, 216 hours of CTE courses, which 54 are work-based learning, or if you have no CTE courses, you could have 216 hours of work-based learning. And then you could add your specific skill courses. What I really want to make a point of is that employers say they would, first what they want from a student would be positive work habits, showing up on time, doing a day's work, smiling, having enthusiasm, just making the most of the opportunity. I like to use a form of self-assessment in my online courses that I have found some research on from KIP Character, and that I actually have my online students take a look at their positive online work habits. Do they show grit? Do they show gratitude? Are they engaging? Have they made a commitment? We need to assess both the specific skills as well as the attitude and work habits. And it shouldn't be an end-of-the-year assessment on attitudes and work habits. It should be a frequent assessment by the student and the teacher periodically. Then we have number 4, work-based learning activities. We talked about certainly those things, whether they're paid, non-paid, in school, guest speakers, field trips are all different work-based learning activities. I see I have 2 number 4s here. Number 5 should be college and career ready. This now are, after they've completed all these activities, do they have what I call the career ready indicators to show an employer that they are career ready? And I'll talk about that in a second, what they are. Just the advisory boards. Number 1, we are building the future workforce pipeline. We are developing partnerships with employers, and partnerships are a two-way street, right? If we have employers, schools, and students, all of these individuals have needs. Employers need the future workers. That's why they want to work with us. They definitely want the positive worker, strong work ethic. The schools need the connection of the classes to the real world. They need resources to help them do this. They need sponsorship of their programs. And students, our end goal, they need the current skills. They need to be taught what is happening in the workplace now. They need the opportunities for different career pathways. So all of us are in the game. All of us should be sitting around the table. So when you do an advisory board, yes, you'll have employers, educators, parents, but you should have students, college people, and so forth, and lots of teachers. Here's a list of partnership activities. The core, career exploration, I think I've mentioned some of these. Here's those soft skills, zest, grit, self-control, curiosity, optimism, gratitude. And then employers can work with us in class projects, out-of-class projects, competitions, problem-solving, design, and innovate. Lots of things we can do. The world today is wonderful with the internet and everything, and it really helps us connect to many people. The career counseling I mentioned before, discovering your strong interest areas, that's your career DNA. You should understand where you fit into the career clusters. We should be helping our students develop a career plan. And this, we're even saying from grade 9 on, if you have students in 9th grade. There should be a plan for post-secondary education. All of the above should go into some type of portfolio, so when they are leaving our schools, they're taking documents that they could use to show employers, to show college, something they can look back on. Job and character skills, I think I covered a little bit before too. The character, 21st century skills, communication, critical thinking, creativity, employability skills profile. This is a document that assesses the success of the student in the classroom. Okay? Specific job skills, industry credentials. We should identify industry credentials that each industry wants our students to achieve and work towards that. All these state-approved CTE pathway programs include an industry credential. Safety, labor law, and here's something new that I feel the 21st century work-based learning coordinators should be much more on top of things, and I call it connect to corporate intelligence. As a coordinator, we need to be able to identify 5 corporations in each of the 16 career clusters in our community. We need to know who is around us. Many times we only see the retail stores and the restaurants, and we don't realize the industrial park is there, or the 4-story professional building has many high-tech type of companies within it. We need to develop our own knowledge of specific corporations in our community. And most important is, as we're doing all of this with our students, we are really making our students assets to employers, right? We don't want them to be liabilities. We want to be able to walk in and talk about, this student will be an asset to your company, and you're going to want to keep the student. The work-based learning coordinator, these are the specific jobs that the individual will be asked to do probably right away. They usually have something to do with the related instruction. They will develop training sites, placement procedures. The documents have to be prepared, the ones I listed before. They have to make sure that the safety training is validated and the students are ready to go out to work. And then they oversee the students. They're protected by the labor laws, and they coordinate other work-based learning activities for the school, and they help with creating the e-portfolio. Now, this could be done by one individual, or it could be done by a team of individuals. Depends how large your school is. And then we have, I had mentioned before, CareerReady Indicators. In my mind, an indicator is some type of benchmark or document that the student has achieved and has validation that they are leaving our schools with this. For example, the career decision-making tools. Do they really know how to assess their interests and how to match them to jobs and industry clusters? ONET is a wonderful website that helps you do all of this. It's our government website, and it's fantastic for this process. And then we have skills, the character 21st century skills, of specific job skills. This would be documented in the employability skills profile. The next indicator would be the training plan from the work-based learning activity. Many of my students confuse between employability skills profile and the work-based learning training plan. The training plan is for the outside education. The employability skills is for the inside classroom. And then we have the post-secondary roadmap, which is the career plan of, well, where have I been? But more important is, I think the document should have more pages on where am I going? What are the 10 employers that are in my region, area, my county, my township, that I could knock on their doors and say, I want a job? You know, they should be listed someplace with the students. They shouldn't be waiting for a help wanted ad, right? What are my options in education? What programs at the 2-year college would match what I'm interested in? So that post-secondary roadmap is really very important. So I think, Gretchen, we are up to our second break before we do our little role play. Are you there, Gretchen?
I am. You have some more
questions?
All
right, let's just take a couple so that we have time to do our role play.
Okay. The first one is, we live in a rural district where there are not many businesses or employers. How can we still have placements and advisory boards?
You know, I know a lot of people will say that, and what's interesting is I will also have people who live in major cities like New York City and say that the employers, even though we have many, many employers, they don't want to hire our high school students. Well, two things. One, even in a rural area, if students are coming from families are working someplace. So you may have to look at your advisory board from the parent community. Another great community would be your alumni. Your students are graduating from your schools. Where are they going? And in today's world with Facebook and LinkedIn, are wonderful connection pieces to find out who graduated from my high school and where are they now. Maybe they're not working locally, but they certainly can add to your work-based learning types of activities, so that would be okay. The other area of placement may come in a form of virtual placement, all right? There is a way to actually have students try activities at different companies online, even though that's not really work-based learning hours, but at least it opens doors. And some of you know that I'm the author of a online career adventure called the ExtremeIntern.com, and that has 64 virtual internships. It's a free program, career adventure, and Extreme Intern starts with an X and not an E. I would suggest taking a look at that because there's a lot of activities the students could do to have the feeling of what work-based learning is like. And in New York City, you just have to knock on the doors and tell those employers your kids are just as good as college students. Okay, another question.
For the CDOS credential, is the CTE classroom requirement satisfied by the same facts, technology, and business courses that are also required for a diploma?
Well, if I understand the question, technology, family, consumer science, and business education courses at our high schools are all career technical education courses. So that would be, any of those courses would satisfy the CTE requirement. If you don't have access to that, then do the flip. Do the 216 hours of work-based learning, all right? And that will be what you need for the credential. But when you're doing that, create your own skill development courses that are not CTE courses, but are going to help those students do well in the job. You can count summer hours, so that's how you could get so many 216 hours over a period of time. Got one more before we go on and do our drama?
Okay. Does New York Career Zone fulfill the career decision-making tool?
Say that again, the first part.
Does New York Career Zone fulfill the career decision-making tool?
Yes. There are many great websites that you could use. The state doesn't say you must use only this, right? It's up to you and your team of people to say exactly what do we want our students to know about themselves and what decisions do we want them to make so that they know where they're going. So certainly New York State Career Zone is great. They have the John Holland Code. They have all the information about careers. They have a built-in career plan that can be used. So wonderful free resource. So shall we move on and at least do the last part and then we can answer the last questions?
Sure.
Okay, Gretchen?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of my students might have seen this little activity that we're going to perform right now. I've asked Gretchen to help me with this. This is the first time she had to do a role play. So let me give you the introduction to this and what's going on. The job of the work-based learning coordinator is different than a normal teaching job. It's a different nature. You are in and out of the building, which many teachers don't realize at first when they think about taking the job, which means you may have to get in your car and drive someplace or get on the subway and go someplace and come back. It's a sales type of position. You are going to have to persuade employers to take your assets, your students, right? As well as you may need to persuade students to take your work-based learning program. So in many cases, when teachers come to take these certification courses, they have not had to worry about leaving buildings, persuading students to do something, or persuading employers. And also, probably one last factor that I always hear about is wardrobe, is that as you go out to visit employers, possibly the wardrobe that you are wearing in school may be different than the wardrobe of clothes that you need for the workplace. So you're going to find yourself maybe changing before you leave the building or being the best dressed teacher in the building. So knowing that there are differences in the job, I want to introduce you to three work-based learning coordinators. we have Lisa Falls, who works at the High School of Tomorrow. Special needs student is what she handles. She's working with them for the CDOS Commencement Credential. She has an advisory board focused on development of work-based learning activities and entry-level positions for exiting students. We have Tom O'Neill. Tom is at the Business Professions High School. It's a comprehensive academic high school which has CTE courses. Students need to explore careers to further determine their future goals. Tom has an advisory board focused on career exploration and development activities. So explore and hands-on develop. And then we have Joan Rogers, who's from Star Trek Technical Center. She is in a career-focused school with several career and technical education pathways to employment and post-secondary education. You know, this is a school that has the automotive program, the culinary program, you know, multiple periods dedicated to this. She, too, has an advisory board and a craft trade committees for each of the focused career areas. So we have 3 very personable, outgoing, talented work-based learning coordinators. Okay. Just a little bit more about them. Lisa, who's working with CDOS, she is going to do the 216 hours of work dedicated to career counseling, employability skills, including 54 hours of work-based learning. Lisa coordinates the community-based work experience program. Tom, from our comprehensive high school, he is going to instruct the needed related instruction in career counseling as prescribed by co-op and CEIP. Joan at the Tech Center, it has a little bit of a different situation. Joan is going to work with the career and technical education instructors to deliver the related employability instruction. She is going to either pop into their classrooms or work with the students in small groups or one-on-one. So we have Lisa, who has dedicated of working with the students and doing everything. We have Tom that's going to be teaching classes, maybe 2 classes of related instruction and 3 business classes, and Joan, who is servicing a much larger group of students. And so we have now visioning the end goal that I have been talking about. How do we sell our students as assets? And so we have a little scenario here where Gretchen is going to play Jamie Davis, the Human Resource Manager. And Gretchen, you're also playing, who did I give you? It was Joan, right? You're going to be playing Joan from Star Trek. I'm going to be playing Tom O'Neill, so you'll hear my voice change a little bit, and Lisa Falls, all right? So what the scenario is that it's March 1st, 2 p.m. There's a new hotel opening up on the edge of town, 150 rooms, swimming pools, banquet room, and the hotel anticipates hiring 75 to 125 new employees. Jamie has contacted the 3 work-based learning coordinators to come over and see the new hotel and to hear about the programs that they are running in their schools. Now, as Gretchen and I go through this little drama, just keep aware of, see if you could identify the skills and knowledge of the work-based learning coordinator and what he or she needs to do to persuade the employer. And which work-based learning coordinator would you be similar to in regards to the type of school, and what are the skills and knowledge your students will need for the workplace? So here we go. Jamie, you're on.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to our new hotel. We look forward to hiring a good number of full and part-time staff. Please make yourselves comfortable. We are looking forward to developing strong partnerships with local schools. We have many job openings. Why should we hire your students?
Well, I'll start first. I'm Tom. The students at Business Professions High School are prepared to handle your office and front-end tasks, as the students have taken accounting, marketing, and computer applications. They will gladly share with you their career plans which connect to your career goals.
Our students from Star Trek Technical Center have specific career focuses such as culinary, carpentry, plumbing, and electrical trades. They will be happy to show you their class employability profiles, skills mastered, and be ready to work with their own tools.
Our students at High School for Tomorrow are in the act of completing several job skill units such as customer service, catering services, security, retail, and basic office skills. They will be able to offer you strong basic skills to make your hotel shine.
Are your students prepared to be interviewed within the next 5 days?
Well, yes, our students are ready to call for an interview appointment, and they will arrive with their resumes.
Our students will also call for an appointment and be able to share pictures of their culinary projects from their e-portfolio.
Yes, our students are also ready to call and will present to you their certificates of workplace readiness skills.
In addition to educating your students as to the specific job skills, what other preparation have they had for the work world?
Well, at our school, at Business Professions High School, our students learn how to collaborate as team members and meet deadlines. Many have participated in the International Virtual Enterprises program.
Our students learn about work ethics and helping their employer make a profit. Professionalism and appearance are stressed at all times.
And our students will bring their employability profiles, which highlight their strengths and various career opportunities they have taken advantage of during their 4 years of high school.
If there are no other questions, have your students begin calling for a job interview in 5 days. They should indicate which job opportunity they are applying for. Here's a list of the training positions.
Okay, and thank you, Gretchen. You did a great job. I'll see if there's any openings on Broadway down here in New York City. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope we didn't make complete fools of ourselves. So what we was trying to do here is to show you how 3 work-based learning coordinators have to persuade and sell their students. And certainly if we are saying all of those things about our students, then they need to be prepared when they go out the door. Now, I know in this scenario, it was a competitive type of scenario. Many of us around the state usually ends up in this scenario because there'll be job openings, and we have lots of schools around us, so high school students would be applying at a new hotel. There are college students that would be applying, and then there are adults that are applying for these positions. So it's really important that with all this competition, we need to prepare our students for the interview. I know, too, sometimes that you may be placing your students out to the work world without going through the job interview, that you are opening the door for them, which is fine. But I hope before they do exit or graduate from your school that they do have experiences of going through a regular job interview. There's nothing better than not getting the first job and learning why they didn't get it, and you would be the one that would find out and give the feedback to the student. So I don't think we need to answer these questions that I have listed here, but it's something for everybody to think about. I know, too, Gretchen, everybody's going to get the PowerPoint. Do they get the PowerPoint in the workbook, or is that all put up on the site, the CTAC site?
The PowerPoint will be posted along with the recorded webinar.
Okay, very good. So you'll have access to this. Just quickly, since I had mentioned before about that this is a different type of position for an educator, I find many times I hear from my students saying, I'm not too sure if I can do all this networking and going out to dinners and sitting next to strangers and introducing myself. So we do spend a module on developing a business card, developing an elevator speech or a pitch, and we talk about how to network. But one of the best resources I've learned a lot from over the years is this gentleman, Keith Ferrazzi, who has, just Google him, and wonderful sites, lots of videos that you can watch to develop your own skills to be that 21st century coordinator. And there's some questions when you get this PowerPoint. There are questions here that I have found that these are the questions that schools are using during job interviews for a work-based learning position. So it's something for you to be able to go over, have answers ready before you go in for that interview. Again, we do that in one of our modules in the first course. So here's 9 questions, I think, are there. More resources that will be there for you. And now we can end with whatever questions we didn't answer at this point. I don't know, how are we on time? We're up to 4:30, I see.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. We have quite a few questions, so as a reminder, Sue will be provided with a log of all of the questions that came in, and she needs to answer them after the webinar.
I do? Okay. You didn't tell me that one. All right, go ahead, questions.
The first one is, can extreme internships be part of a classroom instruction for internships?
Oh, definitely. It should be a definite component in your related employment instruction. It's just right now the hours do not count for actual work-based learning hours, even though that's something that I would love to see be considered by the state. But it's great in career and financial management class, a career planning class, any entry-level class, even virtual enterprise, because it's a simulation in which the students travel around the globe where mentors talk to them and they actually perform internship tasks that they hand into you, the teacher. So, okay, next question.
Next question is, my district is looking to implement a new work-based learning program for the 2015-16 school year. What are the deadlines for required coursework for the 89, 82 certification, and what is the cost? Well,
I've mentioned that I teach the courses at Buffalo State, along with, there's another woman, Suzanne Ziwan, who teaches sections. I teach it for Hofstra. I believe Oswego may be having their classes come back. They had a wonderful gentleman that did move on to another college, so those courses may be available. And I think in New York City, the City of New York teaches some of the courses during the summer. For Buffalo State, I believe right now it's about $1,400 for 3 graduate credits. If you don't have your bachelor's degree, you can take the courses as undergraduate, and it's a little bit less. But if you do have your bachelor's degree, you would need to be taking the graduate credit. I think I answered that. Did I miss any? Oh, well, as far as applying, I can tell you for my courses that mid-October would be important for you to start the process, and the course starts the 3rd week in January, 3rd or 4th week in January. So they do fill up very quickly. And I can tell you, and I know my students online can tell you, I'm going to make you work. So be prepared. Another course, another question.
Next question. I'm confused by what you mean when you say that the employability profile is for the classroom. Shouldn't it be completed when the student is at the work-based learning site?
I'm glad they asked that question, because actually there are 2 employability skills profile. For the past 10, 15 years, there's always been in the CTE classroom, in the CTE high schools, an employability profile that the teacher, it's their curriculum, and they check off that the student has mastered this, 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 and this, and so forth. And then the work-based learning coordinator gets that profile, looks at it, matches it up with an employer, and when the student goes out, now it's a training plan that is developed by using that site I mentioned, ONET. The student has 2 documents, but I noticed that with the new CDOS Commencement Credential, they somewhat have included both what happens in the CTE classroom, or skills classroom if you want, and what happens at the 54 hours of work-based learning. So, I wasn't 100% correct when I just kept referring to that document as only one type. It's a little bit different for the CTE technical high schools. They have their own form, and for CDOS, they sort of have merged the training plan and the classroom activities. I hope that helps.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. I'm coordinating a non-registered program for students working toward the CDOS credential. Our students work at a variety of community businesses and are supervised by a job coach. We're currently using Weebly for our e-portfolios. Can the time spent developing the e-portfolios be counted toward the work-based learning hours?
Not really, unless I could see if there was a portion of that work, that e-portfolio that needed to be completed with the employer, and it was done at the employer site. There was some activity or something, that time spent with the employer, maybe discussing certifications, vocabulary, operational procedures or something, that would go into the portfolio. You know, that would be like on-the-job training at the employer's site, so those hours could be counted. But just doing everything back in the classroom really doesn't count as work-based learning hours. You know, don't be afraid of getting these jobs for these young people. The employers are wonderful. Make the relationships in your advisory boards. They'll understand what you're trying to do. Let them help you develop your curriculum, and it's a really win-win. They are parents themselves. They like to help. So I see on the screen that we have up, I have the URL for the Extreme Intern, so that's there. And I have my email address up there, so if you want to contact me, you can. I'm also an author of a book called Games to Careers. It's all about the games you play as a child are direct clues or indicators as to what careers you should consider. Anything else, Gretchen?
No.
Well, I want to thank everybody for logging in. We had a really nice number, and I know there's a lot of people that were driving cars and will be watching this at a later time. And I hope that they come back for my next webinar. I think there'll be something probably in November, so we'll see them at that time. Sound good?
Yeah. On behalf of the Technical Assistance Center, I'd like to thank Sue Gubin for her presentation today. And as a reminder, it will be archived on nyctecenter.org within 72 hours.